So in this presentation, I would like to present some preliminary results from part of my PhD. So it's around assessing the effectiveness of migration as an adaptive strategy to climate change in the Eastern Hindu Kush, northern Pakistan. So just to give you a little bit of introduction. So Eastern Hindu Kush region, which is part of the wider Hindu Kush Himalaya region, is very vulnerable to adverse impacts of climate change as well as various extreme events. And outmigration, as shown by other studies, as well as my own work, shows that it happens from highlands to lowlands and is characterized by or influenced by multitude of socioeconomic, political, and environmental factors. And mobility and immobility decisions are influenced by climate change through its impact on people's livelihood, especially in Eastern Hindu Kush, through on land degradation, negative crop production, and decline in livestock farming. And in the climate migration debate, this aspect of migration as adaptation strategy is quite emphasized, but maladaptiveness of migration is understudied. And generally, when it comes to the region, there is little research on climate migration and almost little on effectiveness of migration as adaptation strategy in this specific region. So in terms of research design, so the aim which guides this research is assessing the effectiveness of migration as adaptation strategy by analyzing the positive and negative consequences of migration for the households. And the theoretically approaches which informed it are livelihoods framework and new economics of labor migration. And I use mixed method research, which involved household survey, interviews, and focus group. And you could see some of the pictures from the interviews and focus group in the field. So the research is located in the Lotkuh Valley in the Eastern Hindu Kush region. And the Lotkuh Valley is located in the Lower Chitral district in the northwest of Pakistan, bordering with Afghanistan. And it is one of the remote and isolated high mountain regions in the world with average elevation of 2,500 meters. And it is prone to multi-hazards and their interconnected impacts, as you could see on the map on the east. So it has very high mountains and glaciers, so glacial melting coupled with, like changes in precipitation, also a big source of floods, which further triggers, landslides, avalanches in the region. And only 3% of the land is cultivable, mostly in the valleys on the alluvial fans. And the major livelihoods include crop cultivation, livestock farming, little bit of tourism, and outmigration, which generates remittances. And from the pictures you could see in this village, Siarkari on the left side is prone to rockfalls, landslides, and land erosion along the rivers. And some of the areas are very isolated, like Gabor Valley bordering with Afghanistan, very poor infrastructure and subsistence agriculture. Some of the preliminary results include like positive consequences of migration when we call it as an adaptive strategy. So a lot of, for example, households reported increased their income as well as improved access to education and health. Few households also diversified their livelihood sources and then some saving generated. But there is little investment in agriculture as well as in risk reduction measures against climate change and extreme events. So the remittances generated are used to cover some basic expenses of the household. And overall, for the families, for the households, there is improved living standard and family reunification happens for some of the wealthy migrants. And then there is increased in economic assets of the migrants. So these are the positive consequences of migration. Now the negative consequences when it comes to the maladaptiveness of the migration. So similar to other panelists, so there is increased burden on women for around 65% of the households. which are already burdened, engaged in agriculture and so many other day-to-day activities. And another vulnerable group is the elderly people in the house. So when the young people migrate to the urban centers, they are overburdened. And the child welfare, which is also neglected in other study, is compromised. And even there are instances where there is food insecurity for the households because they no longer are able to carry out the agriculture. And at the same time, if the migrants are unemployed. And that leads to decreased household income. And also it increases agriculture cost because they require labor and they have to hire it. And insecurity for the household members also. So the migration also kind of causes depletion of resources and generates financial impacts because of migration cost and decreased in the asset base of the households. And then it also causes emotional distress and prolonged separation for the family members. And then there are also challenges in the family support because of the lack of the male members in the household. And then on the agriculture, there are, the negative consequences because a lot of agriculture is communal when it comes to irrigation, land management, harvesting. So if there are no male members participating and they migrate, that generates negative consequences. So in summary, so we know migration has a dual nature. So it can be adaptive and maladaptive for migrant sending households. When it acts as adaptation strategy, it increases household income and improves access to education and health and living standard for the family. But it is also has gendered and generational negative impact on the families. And we also notice like there is little or no investment in agriculture and disaster risk reduction measures. So in terms of the future work, I would like to explore more the conditions, for example, inequality, under which migration is adaptive for some households and it is maladaptive for others. Thank you.